years, I've been teaching, coaching, and training people how to generate extra incomes, primarily from home. So I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. And prior to that, I actually worked in software at IBM. And over 31 years ago, I guess now, I took a course by Dale Carnegie. This is a little golden book. And about a year and a half ago, I took that course again. So I took it 31 years ago, had a gap 30 years, and I took it again. And I just love this. And I met just an amazing individual. His name is Bledsoe. He was my instructor. I was definitely honored by this guy. Josh is an amazing individual. He lives and breathes the principles of Dale Carnegie, and I'm sure you've read or heard about at least How to Win Friends and Influence People. He's a small business owner. He's a military officer. He's a husband. He's a super dad. He actually is an elite athlete running the Spartan race. If you look over there to the side, you'll see some Spartan stuff. But Josh, thanks so much for being here, man.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. And when you reached out to me, it just lit my whole day up. I stopped everything I was doing and focused on my phone because I was getting a chance to talk to Terry. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, man. We are in uncertain times right now, Josh. You know that you coach people every single day. And my desired outcome for this conversation really is to give our viewers some tips and strategies on how to deal with today in terms of stress, worry, anxiety, but how they can future pace or how they can see themselves in the future. So let's jump in with a couple of questions, if it's okay, if you don't mind. What are you seeing right now in terms of the biggest things that are on folks' mind as you're coaching them?
Gosh, last week, Terry, it seemed like the common theme of all of my coaching calls all day long for 5 days a week stemmed around what do I do with this overwhelming uncertainty? Sure, people had gone through some stressful moments before and they had successfully made it through those. This is uncharted territory. So their main concern is what do I do with this uncertainty? So our focus last week primarily was around people that as individuals and how they can manage it internally. And like a small business owner, you're doing a lot of it or all of it by yourself. So we went back into the Golden Book. Mine is a little bit newer than yours. I love you still have one of the originals, not the 1912 version, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. I'm old, but not that old.
Yeah, but we went back to this. Every person that takes a Dale Carnegie course has this in their possession. And all this is really, we like to call this the first ever mobile app. This is the principles from the famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Many people have heard of that. You can find it on Amazon and grab it. And this golden book is a combination of another book Mr. Carnegie wrote, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. So we like to refer to this as the first ever mobile app because it's hard to put this in your pocket. It's easier to put that in your pocket.
That's right. There you go.
So I had to ask the folks on the coaching calls, and these are all individually based, and they have a chance to book my calendar for anything like this. And I had to ask them, like, why do you think Mr. Carnegie wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People first, and then he wrote How to Stop Worrying and Start Living? And the answer is pretty much unanimous of, well, you can't be the best version of yourself if you're stressed out.
Right.
And I think all of us are feeling that right now. We're waking up every day not the best versions of ourselves because of some circumstances going on. We had this 2020 mapped out for business. Maybe you were having the best quarter of your life. I know I was. I was having the best quarter ever. And then something out of my control postponed that. I won't say took it away because I'm going to get through this. And what people are talking about on coaching calls is they're also determining that this is postponing. But they said that he wrote that because you can't show up the best version of yourself unless you can figure this out.
Right.
How to conquer worry. And one of the things, I mean, I've read this thing cover to cover, and I'm reading it again, cover to cover, because I need to be reminded of this just as much as everybody else. That, look, worry and stress are really like thieves. They can take away from us all the productivity, all the positive mindset, all the things that I see you putting out there, Terry. You do so well, and I'm just inspired by how you can maintain that high level of positivity in this world of unknown. It's really the practice of the principles. And one of the chapters that came up this last week was chapter 3 of that book. He talks about the outbreak of smallpox. Now, Mr. Carnegie is no longer with us, and his books are quite old, but the principles are still true. And in the story, he tells that smallpox is a big outbreak, and people are getting sick all over. Thousands of doctors are coming in to help. Hospitals are full. Sounds a little bit like what we're seeing
Yeah.
now. And he says someone comes to his door, knocks on the door, and their job is literally just to tell people the health risk of smallpox. Imagine, if you will, slower version of our social media, making
Right.
it from door to door. And he listens to the person. They tell him all the health risks that if he gets smallpox, what will happen. Closes the door, thanks him for the time, closes the door, and he thinks, why hasn't anyone, in all the years I've lived here in New York City, why hasn't anyone come to my door and told me about the health risk of worry and stress?
Mm.
And that's what we had to focus on last week is, this is overwhelming all of us. But who do you think that you need to be on the other side of this? And if we don't focus on the now and practice the principles such as reminding ourselves the exuberant price we'll pay for our health if we continue to stress and worry, if we don't practice self-care right now. So that was a focus last week. This week, it's been better on coaching calls because folks took some time to really focus on themselves. They took out their golden book, they opened it up, and they're looking at principles such as keeping busy, living in day-tight compartments for themselves to organize their calendar a different way. And then this week, it's switching to their teams. Those are the business owners or the folks in corporations that have teams. Now they've gotten to a place because they've managed their stress well themselves. Now they're in a place where they can start helping other people.
Right.
Kind of like the whole oxygen mask thing on an aircraft kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I know that if we allow ourselves to get into our head, and if we're plugged into the news, it can really cause a lot of internal mental anxiety and damage. And I think we need to create boundaries, and we need to create that environment for ourselves so we can lead and we can provide, whether it be as a parent or as a business leader. We need to be that example, and we need to walk our talk. So that makes so much sense to me. And the other thing that really helps me with those principles is making sure exercise. So for me, when I'm stressed out, I get on my bike behind me. I did it this morning, rode it an hour, did my 200 push-ups. Not bad for somebody 62, right, Josh?
That's awesome.
I can't do what you do with the Spartan stuff, but hey, I'm doing the best I can. And
you sure could.
That's all we can do. Is we all just need to do the best that we can. And we need to be kind to ourselves, and we need to love ourselves on this journey. It's not about perfection. It's about
the phrase we live by in Dale Carnegie is do the best we can with what we have.
Absolutely. So, how do you keep positive when there's so much negative energy and struggle around you, and those people are really, really depending on you?
Yeah. So we actually just had this talk this morning, literally our Dale Carnegie Zoom team meeting, as we were talking about how much we're limiting the news intake that we take in, how much we're limiting social media intake that we take in, because it's really affecting our emotions.
Yep.
And the truth is that we're stressed. We are stressed to hear because we don't know what this is going to do to our Dale Carnegie business. And Dale Carnegie is a global company. Gosh, China, Dale Carnegie, is almost just completely different now. So how we manage it and how I'm personally been managing it, I, like you, if I've started to feel stressed out, overwhelmed, I lace up the shoes and either go for a run or I just started the full name workout. I just posted on
I saw that.
It's terrible. You hate your name within like half a minute of this thing. But it's you got to get the blood going and some of that endorphins going. And then injecting positivity. So we made a collective decision as a team that now is the time to be helpful. And we hold webinars now once a week. We're bringing in all the graduates. They're open to you as well. to come in and just jam with us, because we're having these team meetings and keeping each other sane and positive. We thought, why shouldn't we include all of our alumni? And that's a thing that we started this week of just being helpful for people. And my colleague Doug Stewart mentioned this in yesterday's webinar. Is, one of the things we can consider doing is to manage our own stress and help us out and stay positive with this, is doing something positive and helpful for other people.
Yeah.
Maybe just asking, like, who's someone that I could reach out to and do something that's helpful with no strings attached. Just simply doing it because it helped. And we asked the audience what they thought, and they all put in the chat that that's going to make me happier.
Yeah.
When I can provide something for someone.
Yeah.
That's a place we're starting from.
Yeah, I think, being part of that positive community and staying connected, whether it's reaching out to external organizations like, the Dale Carnegie and all the alumni there, or your little circle of influence. I think now more than ever, good news, bad news character gets revealed. That's sometimes not always good, but we can make a conscious choice to put ourselves in an environment to surround ourselves with powerful people who are given and certainly trying their best to be a better version of themselves. So it's so awesome. I'm definitely going to jump onto that. So I'll be reaching out to you afterwards on that for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about some strategies for controlling worry and stress, and to start, I don't want to say surviving, but living and growing in this turbulent time.
Yeah, for sure. We got to be honest that when it comes to stress, stress is not always a bad thing. Michael Phelps would tell you that stress could win gold medals. Phil Mickelson would tell you that stress helps him focus more and making the putt. So we're not going to get away from stress. And this is something we talked about in the Dale Carnegie course, where we mentioned stress management multiple times. There's no such thing as a stress elimination program. I can't teach that, and you can't afford it. It doesn't exist. So we have to be honest about stress, that it can cause good things and it can cause bad things. The difference between making on either side of that aisle is how we look at it in our perspective. So right now, we are faced with, at least you and I for sure in North Carolina, are faced with stay at home. And this whole shelter in place is coming out, where we can move around the neighborhood, but we're being very limited. So one of the first things that I've had to do personally, and this has also shown up tremendously in the coaching calls with others, is the principle of live in day tight compartments. So Dale Carnegie put that principle into the stress book back when ships and vessels were made around like the Titanic era, and they had one solid hole at the bottom. It was just one big space at the bottom. So it doesn't matter if the ship got hit in the front or the back or the middle, it would take on water and the whole ship would sink because of that. So he thought our lives are a lot like that too, because if we take on too much stress and too much worry in one direction, if we've only built our own internal vessel to have one complete hole, then it could sink the whole ship and sink the whole day. So by living in day tight compartments, you literally, I'm looking at my to-do list over here. I know you're not supposed to go off camera, but this is my day, hour by hour, what time I wake up, and then broken out into 30-minute sections as something that we teach in our peak performance planning workshop. Is if I'm going to live in day tight compartments, I'm going to live in 30-minute increments or an hour increments, listing out my to-do list, listing out my top threes. And if anything takes on water at any point of the day, I get a phone call, I get an email, I get a frantic, anything happens. My kids are home, much like your kids are home, everyone's kids are home. If my 1-year-old screams and doesn't take a nap, that's taking on water in one area. At least I've broken it out into compartments that I can go deal with that compartment and then shut the door, then move into my other compartment. So living in day tight compartments has helped tremendously when it comes to productivity in a world that's so unknown. Another principle you mentioned was just keeping busy. You're a demonstration of keeping busy. Working from home is a bit of a challenge because you don't have that organic busyness around you by being in an office. And as a small business owner, you're the husband, the dad, the accountant, the the CEO, the receptionist, you're everything. Keeping busy means one thing, but keeping busy inside individually prescribed compartments is a totally different thing.
Hmm.
So a lot of folks have really leaned on those two particular principles.
Isn't there a principle that has to do with not worrying about things that are out of your control?
Yes, cooperating with the inevitable.
Mm.
That was the first one that showed up day one of coronavirus making its way to the US for all my clients here in the US. I asked them how they were doing. At the time, they were still working at the office. There was a lot of talk of the office shutting down, or if they owned a business, several of my business owner clients were saying that, well, I got to stay open. I'm just going to stay open. Okay, well, how are you managing your stress? A lot of them were leaning on that, cooperating with the inevitable.
Mm.
Because wouldn't you agree that right now the coronavirus is quite out of our control?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have to deal with things that are out of our control. But the question someone might ask is how much stress they give that thing that's out of their control. Which is
Right.
another principle in that book is decide how much anxiety a thing is worth and refuse to give it anymore.
Yeah. How do you measure that though?
For me, I've got so I'm sitting at my desk and I'm working on several different things: the webinars, the coaching calls, the digital training, the in-person training when we get back, the plan. I have to prioritize what's my top three for today. That gets the most of my stress. It's really my attention, and anything else outside of that gets a smaller percentage for me. Or I may push it to a time where, well, I've got 1 to 2 o'clock open, or I've got 2 to 3 o'clock open. I might push it to a time there. But these three things, they deserve a lot of my attention. And many times right now, gosh, that my family time is always in that top three.
Yeah.
Right now, we're forced to be at home with our families, and we have a choice. We can either look back on this and look at it as an opportunity where we kept things going business wise, or we kept things going business wise the best we could, and we built a stronger relationships with our families.
Mm. That's right. I mean, that's so important to be able to take time to be with the family. And I don't know if it's a principle. You can let me know, but I think gratitude is so important in this time as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
certainly is.
lot of uncertainty, a lot of problems financially, health wise, a lot of fear, but we have so
Mm-hmm.
much that we can be grateful for. Any insight in terms of gratitude and maybe journaling or anything like that?
100%. It's page 9 of the Golden Book. You read and you follow this stuff really well. It's count your blessings, not your troubles, and below that is create happiness for others. Uh, and this same journal, uh, I have a rule because I'm a type A type personality. Mentioned by like the sword over here on my wall, as obnoxious as that is. I love making a to-do list and mapping out my day and going, I'm going to go
Yeah.
do it. The thing that really I admire about my colleague and area manager Doug Stewart is that he's really good at the reflective side of this thing, the
Mm,
journaling part of this thing,
yeah.
and he's such and it shows up in so many areas of his life where he's more reflective and he's got a deeper understanding and a deeper thought process than sometimes I can have. And it hit me before COVID-19. We were sitting in his office as a team, and I thought to myself, if if I want to be a better business owner, and I say better business owner by having a complete understanding, the whole understanding of what's going on in my business, not just the to-do list, not just the accounts receivable, accounts payable, not just um, the sessions that I'm running, but if I want to be so reflective that I'm having a deeper connection with people, having deeper relationships, having more empathy, then I've got to be really good at what Doug does, and it's the reflective piece, the journaling piece.
Right.
Uh, and that man, I've done that day and day, every day since we've been in this whole pandemic. It's given me more time to sit down and reflect. So my rule is I don't get to go to the next day and create a to-do list until I've reflected on the day before. and
That's
what I
awesome.
learned from that day.
That's awesome.
Some of the things we write down is today I'm most proud of. What am I proud of that I did? When I felt stressed, what happened? And tomorrow I'm going to improve by. So we answer questions within this whole peak performance workshop, this planning journal that we have in there, and it's just demonstration of these principles of count your blessings, not your troubles. And I think the most important piece, perhaps for business owners now, Terry, would be think about what you have. What do you have in your control now?
Right.
I took a run through the trail last week as things were just spiraling out of control really fast. I had to get out of the house, had to get it off to nature, and I realized that my programs were going to postpone. So I was in the middle of teaching two public program, which you're familiar with. I was teaching at Cisco. Another one was about to start at an Air Force base, and another one was about to start with Caterpillar. So, man, I had 2020 mapped out, good to go. All of a sudden, it's being postponed. And I thought, man, everything's being taken away from me. So I went to the trail, and on this trail run, I made a conscious decision to just count my blessings of what we have and in our control, what we have right now.
Right.
And the number one thing I thought of was right away is like, I have this outdoors. I have my feet. I thought about your grandson Bash,
Yeah.
who I ran the race for last year. Like, yo, my feet and legs work really well. He's working his tail off to help his legs work really well. And at the end of that run, I had a full list of things that I physically had that were not being taken away from me.
Mm.
And I think that's so valuable for all of us as business owners right now and entrepreneurs is what do we actually have in our possession that cannot be taken away from us, no matter what the president makes a decision to do, no matter what our local governors make a decision to do, or businesses have to do. What do we actually have in our possession now that we can capitalize down on?
Right. Well, that's a powerful message there. We should probably stop there because I want to continue this conversation on a couple of other things, but we'll get into that later on. Josh, I just want to say I really appreciate who you are, the vision that you have, and what you're actually doing to not only inspire but equip people. So I have on the bottom of the screen, people can reach out to you on Facebook and Instagram. Any other closing thoughts or ideas that you want to share, bud?
I do. I admire that you're so focused on your character. The Terry that I know now is the same Terry that I met a year and a half ago. And I think the same thing drove you to take the Dale Carnegie course not once, but twice. You're so focused on the most important piece to what Dale Carnegie calls a transformational formula, which involves a goal, which involves a to-do list to reach that goal. But you're so just laser focused on the most important piece of this formula is who do I need to be to be successful in doing these things and reaching this goal. And I think back and like, why did this guy take the Dale Carnegie course twice? And you came in just like any other participant. You didn't come in as a know-it-all. I've heard this before. Oh, we used to do this. Like you were there just like everyone else was, ready to learn and absorb. I think the parting advice I can give them is really inspired by you is who do we want to be on the other side of COVID-19?
Mm-hmm.
And who does our business need us to be on the other side of this? Perhaps we could take a chapter out of your book and focus on that primarily right now.
Well, thank you so much, brother. My friend watching this, hopefully you got some value out of this. Be sure to reach out to Josh. He's an amazing guy. He's got all kinds of wisdom, offers a lot of great content, throughout the year during crazy times and good times as well. So
yes, please during the good times too.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Josh, I'll definitely be asking you to come back again and dive into some of those other topics that we talked about. So thank you again, man. My friend watching this, I know you got some value because I got goosebumps several times. Know that everything is temporary. This too shall pass. And what Josh started with and ended with is let's all focus on becoming a better version of ourselves. Little by little, step by step, we can improve each and every day. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. And remember one last thing. You deserve to have it all. You're amazing. You're loved by everybody. And we want the best. So reach out to Josh. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Make it a better than terrific day, my friend, and a prosperous one, because you, yes, you absolutely deserve it. Until next time, bye-bye for now.